This presentation is going to be on legal, ethical and regulatory issues in the media industry. And before I get started, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of who the BBFC are and what they do, because I do mention them quite a lot throughout this presentation. So, BBFC stands for British Board of Film Classification, and they are a non-governmental organisation founded by the film industry, and they're responsible for national classification and censorship of films. So before they get exhibited in cinemas and on DVD, they have to give it an aged rating so people know who can watch it and who can't. So, the first film I'm going to talk about is a 2009 Japanese horror movie called Grotesque. And the movie was submitted to the BBFC in July 2009 for a video classification. However, after much debate, the movie was rejected in August. The BBFC refused to rate this movie and in fact banned it in the UK due to it being very graphic whilst dealing with themes such as humiliation, sexual assault and even torture. The lack of storyline and actual character development also played a part in this. There were certain scenes that endorsed sexual violence, and this therefore violates the BBFC's publishing guidelines. Under the Video Recordings Act 1984, the BBFC have to take into consideration the likelihood of any harm that could be caused to the viewers or even to society through their behaviour. Another act that they had to take into account was Obscene Publications Act 1959. Now, the word obscene basically means likely to deprave and corrupt. So, as this movie contains some themes which are quite extreme, they can actually cause distress to viewers, and so this is mainly why the movie was banned in the UK. Okay, so the next movie I'm actually going to talk about is called The Fate of the Furious, and it's an American action movie that is the 8th installment in the Fast and Furious movie franchise. So, the Video Recordings Act 1984 is a law that must be ensured in order for films to be played in the UK, and it states that a film must have a classification. So this movie is obviously an American movie, and so in order for it to be played in the UK, the BBFC must give it a video classification, age rating. So during the post-production of this movie, the director of the movie was advised by the BBFC that the film would be passed as a 15, and in order to get a certificate of 12A, they would have to cut one scene where the violence exceeded the ratings of certificate 12A movie. When the movie was sent for formal classification, they were given their desired rating as they reduced the specific violent time. Okay, so as you can see here, these are the 8 of the Fast and Furious movies in the franchise, and we can see that 5 of them have a rating of a 12A and 3 of them have a rating of a 15. And looking at the worldwide box office and domestic box office, we can see that the movies that have a 12A rating tend to gross more. This is because if the rating of a movie is a 12A, they are opening the movie to a greater audience, meaning there's more access to the film, which can then lead to more profit. More profit and more popularity means that they can create more movies as they know it's going to succeed in the box office, as it already has a huge fan base. And so this is why the Fast and Furious movie franchise has so many films, because of the amount of money it grosses. They have the money and the popularity to keep the films going. Okay, so the next movie I'm going to talk about is The Maze Runner, and The Maze Runner is a 2014 American dystopian science fiction thriller movie. This movie was actually given a PG-13 certificate in America. However, in the UK, the BBFC gave the movie a certificate of 15. In order for them to achieve their desired rating of a 12A, they had to cut 43 seconds worth of the movie in order to reduce the amount of threat, violence and injury. By securing a 12A certificate, this means that they are opening the movie to a wide audience, meaning younger teens can watch this film, meaning they get more profit as more people get to watch it. The BBFC are liable in terms of the ratings they give, and if they don't fit the guidelines or follow legislations such as the Video Recordings Act 1984 or even the Obscene Publications Act 1959, they could suffer hugely. For example, if they gave the movie a 12A rating without being cut, parents may complain about their children's being exposed to violence and threats, etc. And this could affect the reliability of the organisation. And so it's important that they give a certificate that follows the guidelines and legislations so nobody can complain about the movie. So the last movie I'm going to talk about is Noah, which is an American biblical drama film that was released in 2014. And the movie was inspired by the story of Noah's Ark from the book of Genesis, which is part of the Bible. This movie is based on a religion, and ethically this can be quite a touchy subject. The movie also gained quite a bit of backlash due to its lack of non-white characters, and some would even say that the film was actually whitewashing, which meant the majority of the cast was actually white. The movie was actually banned in many Muslim countries, such as Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Malaysia, and Indonesia prior to its release, as well as countries such as Egypt and Pakistan. And this is because of the fact that it's seen as contradicting the teachings of Islam, because the portrayal of prophets such as Noah is forbidden. China, which is the world's second largest film market, also banned the biblical movie due to its sensitivity on religious issues. However, in the UK, the movie was given a 12A rating by the BBFC as there was only moderate violence, which was shown without much detail. The movie also contained moderate threats, where there was a scene where a man was threatening to kill a newborn child, and lastly, there was mild sexual references leading to an overall rating of 12A. In the UK, there is a law that is known as the Race Relations Act 1965, and this act talks about how people shouldn't be discriminated on grounds of colour, race, or ethnic or national origins. With this law in place, it means that movies that touch on these subjects can be played in the UK as long as they don't cause any harm to the viewers. And so there was no problem with this movie being shown in the UK, as it's a diverse country. There was actually a survey by the British Social Attitudes, which showed that more than half of British public, 53%, say that they are not at all religious. And so there's no issue with these sorts of religious films being played in the UK, as there's not just one majority religion. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is copyright infringement within the music industry. So I'm just going to give you a quick definition of the Copyright Law 1988, and it states that the creators of literary, dramatic, musical, artistic works, sound recordings, broadcasts, films, typographical arrangements of published editions, and it gives them the right to control the way in which their material may be used. So, Ed Sheeran's song Photograph was caught up in a lawsuit due to infringement actions. Songwriters Martin Harrington and Thomas Leonard wrote the song Amazing in 2009, and it holds many similarities to Ed Sheeran's 2015 release Photograph. So, the songwriters were represented by Richard Bush, who was the lawyer who represented Marvin Gaye's family in the Blurred Lines court case in 2013. The lawsuit was filed in federal court in Los Angeles, and agreement was settled where Ed Sheeran ended the lawsuit for $20 million. So, Ed Sheeran's Photograph actually received 609 million views on YouTube, whereas Matt Cardle, who was a singer who sang Amazing, only received 4.3 million views. And so you can see why the songwriters would want to sue Ed Sheeran, because he received more views, more profit for a song that bared a great resemblance to their own creation. And so the copyright law protects them from having their work stolen.